What do you do when you find out something your father was doing while your mom was dying? Who do you tell? That's what we're going to talk about today on Caregiver Support Live. Hey everyone, I'm Denise Brown from caringourway.com, and my colleague and certified caregiving coach Jennifer Ritchie is with me today. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Denise.
We get together once a month and we take questions around a caregiving conundrum and do our best to offer insights and suggestions and ideas. Sometimes the questions come to us, and sometimes I find the questions on the internet when I look at advice columns. And that's the case for today's question, which comes from an advice column. So here's the question. Ooh, my mother died almost 10 years ago, and as heartbreaking as it was, our family was so thankful to have incredible hospice support so she could pass peacefully at home. In the months leading up to her death, my siblings and I were able to spend about half our time at our parents' house. We lived a few miles away. Near the end, we were all there at the same time. When I traveled there, I did not bring a computer with me, and occasionally I would use my dad's computer with his permission. One evening, as I opened up his laptop, his Gmail screen was up. Without opening any emails, I could see from the text snippets that he was sending intimate emails to another woman, setting up meetings with her, and ordering lingerie for her, all while my mom was dying in our living room. Although I know my parents' marriage was none of my business, I have every reason to believe that this was not a relationship my mother was aware of. My mother passed away 2 weeks later. I have told only my therapist and my past partner about what I saw. I have not told my siblings, nor have I acted in such a way that my father would know. I understand that looking at his email screen was an invasion of his privacy, but it is certainly not something I can unsee. We were never particularly close, and this information has strained my relationship with him. I have some guilt about not telling my siblings, as well as not making the most of what was likely the last few years with my dad. You know what? I'm going to say that again. I have some guilt about not telling my siblings, as well as not making the most of what most likely are the last few years I have with my dad. I had a wonderful relationship with my mother. I miss her dearly and feel very protective of her. Over time and through therapy, the burden of this knowledge has shifted, but has not become lighter. I truthfully feel that if one of my siblings had this knowledge, I would want them to tell me. I have not been able to decide in my mind and heart if I tell my siblings before he passes, after he passes, or ever. Please help. What do you think, Jennifer?
Uh, this is a doozy. This brings up lots of questions for me, um, some of which are a whole nother topic, but couple things that stand out for me is the burden of the knowledge and why it's a burden. Um, is it sort of a self-imposed burden? Um, there is sort of a morality issue here and like a what your values are. And um, the question is not was this right or wrong, although that is something we can talk about. Um, every relationship is different. And although this person thinks that I don't know if it's a man or a woman, uh, that his mother was not aware of it. We don't know. Um, and so lots to unpack here. Uh, what are your initial thoughts, Denise?
It sounds like the relationship is no longer ongoing,
Hmm.
that the affair has ended. Just something that occurred to me when I was listening to you talk was, and this does not excuse this, I wondered if this was the way the father coped with
Hmm.
his wife dying. And if this was something that he used to cope, this might have been out of character for him and just something he did because he could not figure out what else to do to cope with his wife who was dying. And it's interesting because I do think we kind of get into the right or wrong. And I just am never sure if that's helpful or not. Okay, so I
Hmm.
think what we should really do first is focus on the letter writer's very burning question, which is who needs to know and when is a good time to tell them?
Yeah.
When could the siblings know based on, it sounds
Mhm.
like her father's end of life. Sounds like he
Yeah.
was moving towards end of life. It's also, okay, let's start there because, and then we'll move into her guilt around the impact on her relationship with her dad now.
Hmm.
I think it's been weighing on her. I think it's okay to just share it.
Hmm.
I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how it's helping her not to share it. And I'm going to call the letter
Mhm.
writer a she just because
That's
I,
fine.
it's my default. The
Yeah.
reason why I say it hasn't helped her to keep it quiet is because 10 years later, she's asking for advice about it. It has not served her to be silent about it. What's the alternative? And that is to tell someone. She's
Hmm.
already told her therapist and a past partner, and now it's moving into what do I tell my siblings? I could see why she would be concerned about telling her siblings because that knowledge has impacted her relationship with her dad.
Hmm.
If she tells her siblings, the concern could be how does that knowledge impact their relationship with their father?
Hmm.
I just wonder if the other thought is that she talks about it with her dad. It doesn't seem like that has ever occurred to her to just mention it to her dad. And
Yeah.
perhaps that would be the first step is to just say, I saw this.
Hmm.
It's impacted our relationship. I don't want it to impact our relationship anymore. I just want to let you know I saw it. I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, and that's the question is like, is the burden that she saw it and she doesn't know what to do with it? Or is the burden that she, it's been nagging her for 10 years? The, to piggyback off what you said too, it's like, what is her intention in telling her siblings? Because if she thinks it will cause pain or distress, then it's like, is it necessary? Who knows? Is the intention to like let go of this? I don't know that she's going to get that by telling them. I think it will actually bring it up more because then it will be, oh, let's talk about the scandal of this whole thing, and it may make it worse for her. I love your idea of talking to dad, and I don't think she has, probably because she doesn't have a great relationship with him anyway, but um, yeah, it's interesting.
I'm kind of settling into this idea of what's the possibility of talking it out with her dad.
Hmm.
Just having very fact-based bullet points to use, like talking points. Dad, I
Hmm.
just want to let you know about something I saw when mom was dying. It has weighed on me, and I just want to let you know that I know that,
Mm-hmm.
and then just see where the conversation goes. I don't think it's necessary for her to bring in anger around what she discovered and how she feels that he betrayed her mother, which really what we're talking about is a betrayal.
Yeah.
I think if she can talk about it with these fact-based talking points, perhaps that would help so that she has resolved the guilt around not spending time with him. If she
Mm-hmm.
can say it with the intent of, I'm just telling you this because I want our last whatever days, weeks, months, years to be better than what they've been these past 10 years. And here's why it has felt strained, I guess, strained. It's
Yeah.
because I know something. And she could say, I was hurt and upset to read it.
And it could be, she could also add, like, in an attempt to make these last few years or however long he has as good as they can be. There's this one thing that's been weighing on me, and I want to share it with you. And no judgment, no anger. I've let go of that, if she has. Um, but do you have anything to say about it? Do you want me to know anything that maybe, I mean, she didn't open anything. She doesn't know not that the betrayal here is okay, but um, as you had mentioned earlier to me, like there are many situations where when a person is has dementia or is dying, there are situations where people will have other relationships and, you know, sort of mutually consensual, um, if that if that is possible. Um, so there may be more to it that dad can add to.
And something else, I feel like she's pretending with her dad.
Mm,
She's pretending she doesn't know. And I think that gets really difficult. And I think when you're pretending, you have a tendency to be really sensitive to certain situations. And her response might feel a little out of nowhere. For instance, to certain conversations with her dad, she might seem to be upset about things, and it doesn't make sense she's upset about how he drinks his coffee, for instance, when really she's upset about the fact that he had an affair or seemed to be having an affair while her mom was dying. And I think that pressure of pretending is awful. And I also think it could be, now this might be Pollyannish of me, it might be helpful just to have a conversation about it and to see what she can discover about her dad. And I think her dad is probably reflecting on choices he made in his life. And who knows if he doesn't look at that choice with his own shame and self judgment. And perhaps a conversation could remove all of that negative weight they're both carrying.
yeah. As you're talking, I'm also thinking, if he left this up on his computer and she didn't touch it, and then he went back in realizing she had used the computer, he may be thinking, did she see anything? And he may be kind of holding that as well. I mean, I know I'm sort of reaching here, but it's a possibility. And it could sort of heal him as well. I don't think it's Pollyannish at all. I think a conversation could be really good for both of them. Siblings are, it's just kind of a separate issue. Um, and I think the need to tell her siblings will go away, or at least change, if she works this through with dad. I think it's a great opportunity for her.
She has a therapist. She can talk out the conversation with her therapist. She can
Hmm.
do role playing. If there's one sibling in particular that she's very close with, she could always just say, "This is what I saw when mom was dying. It's weighed on me. I'm going to talk to dad about it."
Hmm. Yeah.
I do think it's the dad to talk about it with the more we're
Yeah.
talking this out.
Yeah. As long as she can do it in a way that's not sort of like confrontational, more just like curiosity. Like I saw this, wanted to let you know, thought I'd give you the opportunity to explain or share anything that maybe was going on for you then, or, but yeah,
And she can be really honest. She can say, "I saw this, and because I saw this, it has strained our relationship. And I no longer want a strained relationship. I just want
yeah,
to just spend a few minutes talking about this situation with you."
yeah, I like that.
Okay, I think we have an option for her.
Hmm.
One thing that I think about, and you had alluded to this, is this idea of how does love show up during caregiving and our chronic illnesses. And I consider, for instance, dementia to be a chronic illness. That's just me. That's how I look at it. However, I'm sure people have different ideas about it, but I'm just saying that's how I'm looking at chronic illness for this conversation. And the family caregiver, the spouse, might be in a situation where they start dating when their spouse with dementia is past the point of recognizing them, past the point of participating in the relationship in a way that feels fulfilling and nurturing and respectful. I'm not sure if that's the way to describe it, but the relationship has changed so much that the spouse with dementia is not really participating in that relationship any longer because of the disease process. So the caregiving spouse might feel like, you know what, I have needs. I want intimacy in my life. I want to have romantic love. I'm going to start dating. And something that I think is helpful that we could all think about is a power of attorney for love, for lack of a better way to describe it. And I started talking about this probably about 20 years ago. I was doing workshops within nursing homes for nurses and social workers. And one of the conversations was around love during caregiving and illness. And the reason that I think a power of attorney can be helpful, it's that it starts the conversation between spouses and others who might be impacted. In certain situations, for instance, if the dating starts, the caregiving spouse starts dating, the adult children might be very upset about it. However, if there's been a conversation before there's any diagnosis, spouses have a conversation about what does this look like when we're in our 80s and one of us has dementia? How does that impact dating and love? They have that conversation, they come to an agreement, and then they share it with their adult children. So the adult children recognize that this was an agreement mom and dad have, and so it's okay. What's interesting is I had a social worker who attended the workshop twice, and she attended it within about 6 months. The first time she attended, I suggested that we all talk with whoever's involved in our life about what our ideas about love and later life look like. And she came back to the workshop again and she talked about it with her husband. And they had some very specific ideas about what it would look like. She, in particular, she said, if I have dementia, I no longer recognize you. I'm not participating in the marriage the way I did before because of my disease process. You can date. You just can't bring her to the house. I thought that was really interesting. So she said, here are the boundaries for me. And then he knew he could date.
Yeah.
He just couldn't host his date in their house. I thought that was really great that she thought it through
Yeah.
and was able to disclose it to her spouse.
I think this whole thing is brilliant. I really do. It's like it maintains the dignity of the relationship, but also honors the well person, the carer, um, in what they might need during that time. Very interesting and really useful, I think. As you're talking, I'm thinking of something I saw like on Instagram or TikTok that just made me sob, and it was a, young couple that was married. The husband got in an accident and had a traumatic brain injury to the point where he had to be in a facility, and she remarried, and the new husband was also caregiver for the previous husband. In fact, it was in their vows, and I'm sure you've seen it as you're nodding, but it was amazing. And like I think about co-parenting with exes, and like there's all different ways to have a family, and if we're all open about it, I mean, I wonder if he was able to be a part of that decision and able to talk about that. But I mean, it looked amazing. It looked like they had a beautiful relationship, and he was getting cared for as well. And he's involved in all the holidays, and the kids are there too. It was just couldn't have been any better. But um, yeah, I think it's brilliant. Let's do it, Denise.
Okay, yeah. You and Karen can do it and then let us know
I could totally do that.
yeah,
How do
next
you feel
month
about
what
that?
you guys come up with.
Okay.
I think it's interesting. There's the other side of this too,
Yeah.
that the person with dementia, for instance, no longer recognizes the spouse, no longer participates in the marriage because of the disease process,
Hmm.
and is in a facility and starts to date and
Yes.
start and starts to really have romantic feelings for another resident and
Hmm.
pursue a romantic relationship with another resident. That could be also part of the conversation.
Yeah. Because that happens a lot.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
And
Yes,
then
it
as
does.
the current spouse, you're like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Right,
She's introducing me to this other guy.
right. And I like
Very
that it's a conversation that happens between two romantic partners because what happens then is they make the decisions that are right for them
interesting. Yeah.
and they don't have to worry about the noise.
And the kids can handle it the way they want to handle it, but at least they know it was consensual and discussed, and there's no betrayal there.
Right. It's very difficult to think about that betrayal. It's
Hmm.
heartbreaking when you think about someone who is at end of life, struggling through a disease process that has taken so much from them. And then it can feel like there's a betrayal from the spouse.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting, all of it.
I do have resources if anybody's interested in learning more about this. On our YouTube channel, I think there is the workshop that I deliver called Power of Attorney for Love. There was a fascinating article. I think it was in the New York Times Magazine in the spring of 2024. It was so interesting that we actually did a live discussion of it. And that's part of our YouTube channel as well. So I'll link to that video. And that involved power of attorney around money, but it was also around romance. It was a very complicated story, and it ended up costing so much money. Oh, fracturing relationships. It was the worst kind of situation you would want to have, the worst. And I think it's just having good conversations on a regular basis. For instance, like you and Karen are going to have a conversation, and that could be the conversation that right now in your life, this feels right.
Hmm.
However, in 10 years, it might look very different. It's a it's checking in on a regular basis, just like we
Yeah.
check in with our wills and
Hmm.
other end of life wishes, our powers of attorney. It's checking in around these really important conversations.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think it leaves people with really difficult questions in their head, like today's letter writer. What do
Yeah.
I do about this information? And if we
Hmm.
can take questions that are so awful to keep in your head out of the equation, it can be really helpful.
Yeah. And it can be helpful for the family around them that might be frowning upon what's happening, but if they know, like this is what I wanted, this is what we all wanted.
I'll give you one other example, and it was an article in Slate, slate.com. And this actually started the whole idea for me about power of attorney for love. And it was two residents of a facility, and they were both without spouses. Her husband had died, his wife had died. I remember their names, even though this article is probably 15 years old. Bob and Dorothy. Bob was already residing at the facility. When Dorothy arrived, it was like, oh, the residents all knew that he was so taken with her. He had been a ladies' man, and everybody knew that. But when he saw Dorothy, he only had eyes for her. And then, of course, she was like, oh, this is a great guy. They both had dementia. However, they both remained human and they had needs. And so, what happened is their romantic relationship included a sexual relationship. And Bob's son walked in at an unfortunate situation between Bob and Dorothy and completely freaked out. And it was difficult to calm him down. Everyone had tried to calm him down. And ultimately, what he did is he moved Bob out of the facility. And once he did that, Dorothy's health really failed. She literally had a broken heart. And I think even if we're feeling like, okay, well, I'm not going to have a spouse in 20 years. Like, I can't imagine that I would be remarried, but who knows, right? So if I'm single, I'd like want my powers attorney to know if I'm single and I'm in a facility and it seems like I'm consenting to a relationship that just makes me thrive, then I want to be part of that relationship.
Yeah.
Please don't take me out of it.
Oh, that's so sad.
Oh, it was heartbreaking. I link to that article as well during that conversation we had in the spring of 2024.
Yeah.
It was very interesting, and it was interesting how love and then love removed impacted Dorothy's health.
Hmm. Because it was probably one of the only things that kept her going.
She loved him. She
Mm-hmm.
loved him. She loved him. Dorothy's daughter was all for the relationship. It was Bob's son. Yeah.
Well, this has been quite an interesting conversation.
It just says to me, caregiving is complex and complicated.
Very.
And we're not looking for perfect solutions. We're really looking for as close to a compromise or a solution that feels right now.
Hmm.
So to tie it up with the letter writer, so in the moment when she saw this Gmail email, in the moment she made the decision to remain silent about it. And that was, it sounds like the right decision for her at that time.
Hmm.
The decision to remain silent doesn't feel like the right decision for her any longer. And it sounds like perhaps the right next step could be talking about it with her dad
Yeah.
rather than talking about it with everybody else. and just going to the source, and that's her dad.
Yeah. Love
Okay,
it.
so yeah, so you have some interesting holiday
I
conversations.
do. Do. Oh, you can make her watch this first.
Yes, she can watch first, and then you guys can have an interesting conversation, and then let us know
Yeah, I
what
will,
comes out of it.
for sure.
Okay. Jennifer, for our listeners and website, our listeners and our visitors, our listeners and our viewers. That's what I've been trying to say. Listeners and viewers who would like to be in touch with you, what's your website address?
Jennifer Ritchie, it's RICHEY.com.
Okay, happy holidays. Thanks for being here, Jennifer.
Me too. Thank you.
And thanks everybody for watching and listening. And if you have a question for us, you can email us at questions@caringourway.com. We also meet live, and typically we meet live on the first Friday at noon Eastern time. So if you want to join us live and add your perspective, we'd love it because your experiences add really an interesting depth to the conversation. And we love that. Okay, thanks for all you do. Be sure to join our community, caringourway.com, to receive more support. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.